everyone. Welcome to the Dreamcatcher podcast, a place where your dreams can find a voice. According to the World Happiness Report, Scandinavian countries consistently rank the happiest. Northern European countries such as Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Iceland seem to have found the formula for happiness. Happiness in this context refers to the satisfaction one feels with the way their life is going and a general sense of well-being. So what is their secret? And can we try it at home? I invited Lola Akinmade Åkerström to give us insight into Nordic philosophies that can boost our happiness and help us live well and feel happier. An award-winning writer, speaker, and photographer, Lola Akinmade Åkerström has photographed and dispatched from over 70 countries from various publications. Her work has appeared in National Geographic, BBC, CNN, The Guardian, Travel Channel, Lonely Planet, and many more. She has received photography and writing awards, including recognition from the Society of American Travel Writers. Having lived on 3 continents, Lola is drawn to the complexities and nuances of culture and how they manifest themselves within relationships. Join us for this insightful conversation where Lola will give us an overview of Scandinavian culture and philosophy. We'll discuss some of the region's prevalent happiness ethos and how it may benefit our lives. If you like what you heard, please don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Thanks. Hello, Lola, or should I say, hey, Lola.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. It is so good to have you on the show. How are things out there in Stockholm, Sweden?
You know what? It's the sun is actually shining right now, which is quite early in January, really. So it's a really lovely day, but still cold. So it's deceptively warm, right? You see the sun shining, but when you step out, it's very cold.
I think that's not too bad by Scandinavian standards.
Exactly. That's a brisk summer day,
That is a brisk summer day, yeah.
I
I mean,
think
I
that's
remember that because I lived in Stockholm for a few months in
yes.
2017. I really enjoyed my time there, but I remember even the summers were cold.
Yes, yes. No, it is, the summers are quite temperate, in the sense that it's not that kind of really hot, humid, sticky situation, but it's more cool and very pleasant during the summer, actually. So I always say it's very difficult to get a Swede out of Sweden in the summer because it's just the weather is just right.
Oh yeah, they seem so happy. Like they're outdoors, they're doing all kinds of activities, they're sailing. They just come alive in the summer. I've noticed
Mm.
that.
Yes, no, it's a culture that's really tied to the outdoors and to nature. And so we all
That
appreciate
is true.
when the weather is nice enough to just be out in nature, appreciating the fresh air and the
Mm.
access, to it, the free access to nature, which is also built into the laws, into the government law, right? Called
Yeah, that was gonna say,
Alleemansrätten. Yeah.
they really do take
Yeah.
care. They're very eco conscious. That's one thing I
Yes.
noticed about them.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I really like Scandinavian culture. It really resonated with me and their philosophy in so many areas of life. So when I learned about your book, Lagom, and your
Yes.
prolific work in just in culture and travel, I knew that I had to have you on the show to talk to you about it. So I really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. And one of the things I love doing is I really love culture. I work as a travel writer
Mm,
and also, and I love getting beneath different cultures and figuring out kind of the best parts of the culture, right? Because every culture, there's no perfect culture. Every culture has its kind of shadow sides and its best sides. And so for me, I try to pick out the best parts of a culture and see how you can learn from that best side to create what I call a super culture.
you are, as I
Yes.
said, a third culture kid with a diverse background. You were born in Nigeria, you're educated in the United States, and you're currently based in Sweden, as we just mentioned. So tell us, how has that impacted you as an individual and your worldview?
Absolutely. And one of the things I always say is that you can learn a lot about a culture based on how it handles stress, right? So taking that part, that kind of vibrant celebration of life, then
Mm-hmm.
mixing that with my American kind of upbringing where I lived as a teenager up until I was working, is the American mindset is we're never going to be able to solve or agree on how to solve the stress. So let us at least find solutions to keep the stress at bay. And that's where you get a lot of that creativity, that drive, that ambition, right? That we still have to keep moving through. So combining that with the vibrancy of Nigeria, that ambition and drive that's very kind of quintessentially American, and then coming to the Nordics, where the Nordics can't really function without handling stress first, right? Which means we need to make sure that we get our work-life balance. We need to make sure we get the education, everything that keeps stress at bay, right? So that we can fully function. And so that is where you bring that kind of work-life balance into my life as well. So in a sense, all three cultures have really helped me create my own super culture in a sense.
So, Lola, I ask this question to every third culture kid. When you're out in the world and people ask you, where are you from? How do you respond?
Mm. So that's very difficult, right? It can mean anything. Where are you culturally from? Where do you roots? Where do you feel comfortable? And so for me, I say, well, my cultural roots are in Nigeria. I mean, that's where I grew up. That's where I feel the most rooted. But home to me is any space where I feel like I can exist without explanation, right? So if I'm in a place and I feel like I can just fully enter that space without having to explain my existence in that space, that feels like home to me. So that is kind of so home could be a community. Like for example, when I lived in the US, my rugby community was home, to me. And but culturally, I'm Nigerian in that sense. And then different communities in the US and in Sweden feel like home.
Interesting. So you find your community within the larger community in a country, right? You
Yes,
find your own
yes,
little space where you can, based on shared interests and shared
yes. So
values.
that, yeah. So I'm in a sense, where I can just be, right? And not feel like, why am I in this room, in this space? What's being questioned?
Hmm.
So that's how I define home. It's a feeling. Home is a
Hmm.
feeling.
And do you feel that in Stockholm, where you're based right now?
In different ways, right? So since I'm a naturalized Swede, I wasn't born here. So in a sense, I would always have that one level of separation because I wasn't born and raised there, which in a sense is also an advantage, right? Because then I can see things more objectively, and that's kind of what led to the book Lagom, where you could see and process objectively how this mindset works. And so in a sense, Sweden is my home in many ways because I've developed roots here as well through the next generation. I found communities where I feel like I can thrive and be myself. But in a sense, it's still a place I'm trying to figure out all its angles and all the different pockets. Yeah. But on paper, I'm Swedish, it's my own as well.
Do you speak the language?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I
Okay.
think speaking the language really helps
Oh, yeah, it
in terms of
does.
understanding. Yeah, no, it really does, right? In terms of
Mm.
the nuance and getting in
Mm.
quicker in terms of integration and understanding. But at the same time, I always say, since I'm a storyteller and I use my words, for me, fluency, I have a different bar for myself when it comes to fluency in the language, right? Because I want to reach that fluency where I can write with the same nuance I write as a storyteller in English. So fluency is different for different people. Some people might say I'm fluent. I will say I'm just an advanced intermediate until I get to that
Yeah,
spot for myself.
yeah. So let's talk about Nordic happiness because it seems like the Nordic people have figured something out when it comes to it.
Mm,
People in Nordic countries consistently rank as the happiest. What do you think could be behind their secret?
So I think a lot of people tend to mix happiness with contentment, right? Because a lot of cultures are very happy cultures, even though they may not have some of the same access to the resources that the Nordics have, right? So in a sense, the definition of happiness, this a Western view defines it as having access to basic needs, things met, where you feel like you've got and that's why I talk about the stress, where you have to meet your basic needs first for you to function. And so if you define happiness as I have all my basic needs met, and then everything else is pretty much the icing on the cake, then you're going to be holistically seen as happier than others who don't have all their basic needs met, right? And so that's why all the Nordic countries, because I told you it's a mindset thing, we need to first focus on our stress factors and fix them first so we can function. And so that's why you see a lot of the Nordic countries up in the top kind of 5 or 10 of the happiest in the world. It's a mindset thing. And I think in this sense, it's are my basic needs being met? Can I feel like I can thrive and live a healthy work-life balance? And I think that's more in terms of contentment as opposed to just sheer happiness.
So it doesn't necessarily have to do with material happiness. It's just something that comes from finding a sense of satisfaction with having all your needs met and knowing that you're going to be okay and you're not going to be on the streets.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's the kind of social structure that's been built over decades that has kind of helped govern this mindset, and in the book, I do break it down in terms of just how if a society kind of collectively operates with this mindset, then everybody understands that we need to make it all work for each other.
So yeah, and the government takes good care of them. I mean, and I guess, and they're okay with that because they pay such high taxes out there.
Yes.
Let's face it.
Yes. Yes, I know.
But they get free yeah, they get free education. That's also free.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it's free but it's not technically free because we all contribute and pay our taxes towards it, right?
That's
so in
true.
a sense, it's accessible.
It's accessible. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Accessible because that's one of the things that has been kind of the myth for a long time, where it's like, oh, it's free education, free healthcare, free everything.
It's not
which
free.
Isn't yeah, it's not free. Somebody pays it, but we do pay it with our taxes because we know that that's the safety net that tries to remove that fundamental physiological stress, right? That we know, and think about it. If I know that I'll be taken care of, I won't be on the streets, I'll at least have some basic, I'll be able to eat, sleep, have shelter, those are kind of those basic needs. And if we take care of that as a society, then the society will function better because people will be able to say, okay, now that's kind of met. Let me now self-actualize the way I want to self-actualize or show up in society, as a person.
Yeah. But for those who don't live in a country where their government takes care of them or gives them access to these, these facilities that they need, I know that there are other things that we can learn from the Scandinavian culture, like a lot of their philosophies. One of them being lagom that we just talked about in your book.
Yes.
You explain what lagom means and how we can apply it in our lives. So can you break that down for us, please?
Absolutely. So we hear this word a lot, lagom, and on the surface, it means, not too little, not too much, just right. But it's a lot more nuanced than that, right? So lagom is, in a sense, handling stress within your control. So removing stress within your life that's within your control. Because as a personal ethos, it's a great ethos. It tries to remove stress. It says, you know what, instead of cluttering your house. If the item doesn't have any emotional value, or if it's not functional, then why is it in your house? Get rid of it. It's adding more stress, Or why do you want to spend 3 hours a day in the gym when you can just bike to work and bike back 10 kilometers each way? You get exercise. It's sustainable, right? It's a mindset that tries to create habits within your control that you can sustain. It's a very sustainability mindset. That's why you also see kind of the Nordics tied to sustainability. It's the mindset. What are the habits I can do every day that I can sustain that would not add stress to my life? I mean, when you lived in Stockholm, I'm sure you participated in fika, and that's those fika breaks
love
where
fika.
you take but and it's fun, but there is a recalibration behind it, because remember, lagom is like a scale. It's trying to keep your internal scale balanced. So if you are walking, you take a break, have a fika break to recalibrate your scale, and then you can continue walking. If you're walking, recalibrate. So it's a that whole process of fika is tied to the lagom mindset of balance. Now,
and for those listening, fika, could you explain what fika is?
So fika is just a kind of this cultural institution where you have to break several times a day to have a coffee break. And
it's like a siesta, sort of.
Yeah, it's like a siesta. A couple minutes, you can break with friends, family, colleagues. Usually with something nice or sweet, cinnamon buns are the ones that are kind of widely pitched as with your fika breaks. But it is just a recalibration mindset, because lagom is a mindset of balance. And when you overwork, if you're working too much and you're kind of getting out of balance a bit, it helps you recalibrate. So that's the great part of lagom. It's a great ethos in your personal life. Now, if you take lagom into a group setting, it changes. It really changes, because remember, lagom is trying to remove stress within your control so that you create that balance. When you move it into a group setting, it tries to do just what it does, which is remove stress within your control. And so if my lagom, which is trying to make me live my best life, is different from yours, Celine, then when we're in a group setting, that can cause stress. And that's why it's a mindset that tries to, okay, you're stressing me out, don't stick out too much, and that's where that homogeneity comes in. Ethos can be fantastic in one context and be very limiting in another context.
When you say people should not stick out, what exactly do you mean by that?
So when you are here in Stockholm, you probably heard of something called jantelägen, right? So that is where it's kind of this unspoken ethos where don't think you're better than me. Don't, it's that, try to just not stick out too much. It's tied to lagom. Jantelägen is just the lagom in a group setting. Because remember, it's a scale, and so it's trying to remove stress within your control. So when you do that, it's going to try and remove anything that's seen as a stress factor so that it keeps that balance in society.
Okay, so this Sweden, or Scandinavia in general, is not a celebrity-obsessed culture, to say the least.
Yeah, well, now it's getting to now. So, okay. So in a sense, it's not a culture that I say it owns the celebrity. Like if you're in the US and the celebrities, everybody's just going to kind of rush them and take photos.
Right.
In Sweden, they don't do that, because it's that kind of, it's more of a mindfulness, let's give everybody their own space. It doesn't mean it's not obsessed with celebrities, it's a mindset that's a bit more mindful.
They don't like hierarchies anyway. Like they really do a lot to maintain equality in a society. And so I can see where that comes from.
Yes. So in a sense, it's more of a flat structure in terms of leadership. It's just a flatter structure, but as with every country, every place, there are always challenges,
Of course.
And so they still, so but lagom, if you think of that ethos, I recommend it as a personal ethos, not so much in a group setting, because there are many Swedes that do not like the word. They actually are very averse to the word, but it's because of Yeah, it's because of how it manifests in a group setting.
Mm.
But in your personal
Okay.
life, it's fantastic because it's trying to make you live your best life, your most
Mm.
sustainable life.
Is it similar to minimalism, like living a minimalistic lifestyle?
So minimalism can be an offshoot of that mindset. It's just because minimalism is kind of it's a bit narrower than lagom. Lagom kind of expands across just lots of different contexts and social situations in life. Minimalism comes from that mindset in a sense that, for example, if I am living, think about decor or like your home life. The lagom mindset says if something is not functional, if I don't use it every day, or if it doesn't have emotional value, and that is where I do not need to be in the house because they add stress. I have to
Mm.
clean it every day. I
Yeah,
need
it's
to
just more weight. It's just more
wash it,
stuff.
but I don't need it. Yes. So you can see how it's really tied. So minimalism is just one offshoot of it, right?
Okay.
Moderation is another offshoot. But once you understand the core of the ethos, then you understand why moderation is an offshoot, minimalism is practicality is an offshoot, right?
Yes.
Sustainability is an offshoot as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for explaining that. So let's talk about another very popular happiness ethos, which actually comes from Denmark. It's called
Yes.
hygge, which is spelled
Hygge.
as
Hygge.
Hyggge. You can
Yes.
tell I practice, right? Practice on the pronunciation.
Hygge. Yes.
Yeah. So, Lola, tell us, what is the hygge lifestyle, and is it possible to live it in our busy
Mm.
modern world?
Yes. And I think a lot of us already live it in many ways. We just don't have names for it, right? Or if we do, just be like those cozy moments where you
Yeah.
stop to just fully be in the moment to appreciate the warmth, the coziness, the kind of feeling in that
Mm.
specific moment. And so
Yes.
that's what hygge is. It is more of a feeling and a moment and trying to bring more of those into your own life or to spend with your loved ones or uh, to really appreciate, to really appreciate in that moment what's going on. So yeah, it's that's kind of what hygge aims to do.
So it literally means coziness, right? Just feeling cozy, like kind of like that feeling when you're indoors during winter and you're near the
Yes,
fireplace, you're drinking hot chocolate,
yes.
and you have like, you're cuddling with your dog or your loved one. So it's that kind of feeling, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So it's that feeling of the feeling of home, like this place, this feeling, this moment feels at home, where I can fully show up.
Lola, is it possible for us to, live the hygge lifestyle when we are so busy on a day-to-day basis? Like we have so many things to do, we're always rushing from here to there. Like, how do we prioritize hygge in our life?
And I think it comes down to just having some kind of either it's a meditation practice, a routine, something. I'm sure you've heard of those uh morning routines where you just take a few moments in the morning, try to center yourself, try to appreciate that moment, try to, even if it's just having a cup of warm water with lemon, but just taking little moments of time with yourself, even if it's
Mm,
breaking for fika, that's kind of how you can bring it into your life, right? So it doesn't
mm-hmm.
have to be this grand, let me go get the socks and the sheep wool and then get the hot chocolate and make it super cozy. It's more realizing that you are what's celebrating every day. You are what's taking a moment for to breathe, to relax, to recenter yourself, to recalibrate your scale, right? And then continue going through the day. And that moment, even if it's just as simple as box breathing, like the box breathing, deep breath in, 4 hold, just to take moments for yourself.
So it's kind of anchoring yourself in the moment and just appreciating everything, like taking a moment to be
Yeah.
grateful for what is around you and everything that you have in your life. And
Yes,
yeah, and just taking everything in with all your senses.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's being more aware, being more mindful. And
Mm.
that's why I say every culture has something like this. We just put different names to it.
That is true. That is true. But there's something about hygge that elicits this warm, fuzzy kind of
It's the
feeling.
sweaters, it's the
It's the
sweaters and the
sweaters.
candles. It's the sweaters and the candles and the
That's it.
fireplace.
Because if you Google hygge and you see the images,
Yes,
you're like, oh, yeah,
yes, I know. That's
that
what
looks so
adds that
nice.
little extra, but everybody can have, everybody has these moments in their own
Right.
lives, in their own cultures with people they love. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, totally agree with you. Okay, so Scandinavia, Nordic countries in general, they are absolutely gorgeous, right? They have picturesque mountains, they have these majestic fjords and these green forests.
Mm,
Really beautiful. So I'm not
yes,
surprised that the Scandinavians, they have formed a very special relationship with nature.
absolutely.
The Norwegians have actually created a word to describe the importance of nature and their connection with it, and it's called a friluftsliv. That's
Yeah,
spelled yeah,
friluftsliv. Yeah.
friluftsliv, and that's for every just spell it out for everyone. It's spelled as FRILUFSLIV. Tell
We have
us
that in
about.
Sweden as well. Yeah,
Oh,
we
is
have
it
the
in
exact
Sweden
same word
too?
in Sweden. Yes,
Oh, okay.
friluftsliv. Yeah.
Okay. So, Lola, please tell us what friluftsliv is all about and how it can benefit our well-being.
So it kind of literally translates to like free air life, right? Friluftsliv, which means kind of being in the outdoors, having a life that's tightly coupled with being outdoors. And in a sense, and I think it just really dates back to, where because the environments have been historically kind of rough and, and ash, the winters can be really cold, but can also
Mm,
be very beautiful with the northern lights. And so there's a lot of surviving on the elements and surviving on the outdoors for kind of sustenance. And then in the government has created this kind of law called Allemansretten that allows you to enjoy nature freely, which means you can camp anywhere freely. You can pick berries freely. You can pick mushrooms. You can do what you want in nature as long as you leave it the exact same way you found it. And that has created a sustainability mindset because if I know I'm going to have access to these forests every summer to go pick chanterelle mushrooms, then I'm going to take care of it because I want the chanterelle mushrooms. I don't want to go pay for them in a grocery store. I want to go be able to pick them, baskets and baskets of them for free, right? So you can see where this develops this innate respect for nature and sustainability, and also plicht, where we say doing what's right, because I know that this is not only going to benefit me, it's going to benefit all of us, and we're going to keep that access to it. So there are many ways, friluftsliv kind of manifests. Lots of outdoor activities, lots of camping, hiking,
yeah. Do
skiing
they have
out
a
in the
summer
mountains.
festival every year?
Which you mean, well, it depends. There's so many festivals every year, but maybe you're thinking of Midsummer. Are you thinking of the
Yeah, midsummer.
Midsummer?
That's it. That's what it is. I
Yes,
remember
yes,
celebrating midsummer in one of my friends' country homes, and
yes,
it's actually a funny story. They were like, "Oh, the lake looks so refreshing. Let's just go in for a swim." And they just ripped off their clothes and they ran and jumped
yes.
in the lake. And for me,
I know.
growing up in Dubai, we're not really, we're not nature people. I wouldn't call us
Yeah,
that. So I was a bit
yeah,
like, okay, they didn't even think twice. They just
yeah.
jumped in. And I was like,
No, absolutely.
actually,
It's
I'm
that
gonna
tight
wait here
connection.
and I'll dip my feet in the water and watch all of you.
Exactly. Dip your toes in the water.
Dip my
No,
toes in the
absolutely.
water.
No, it's that close connection to nature, right? Where we're
That's what I
just
saw that
part of the
firsthand.
very, yeah, in many ways, because they probably got stagnated too and just jumped in. But no, Midsummer is just a really revered tradition here. It really ties to like pagan roots, and it's it's almost like the celebration of life, of virility, because that's again why the pole is shaped the way it's shaped. It has its roots in that sense of transitioning of seasons, of now this is the season of being fertile, of women trying to find, their true love, So there's a lot of kind of history and tradition around midsummer. And
Did it go back to the
usually
Viking times?
probably, but I know its roots are definitely pagan, right? In that sense, but it probably did go all the way back then. So
right. Yeah, and I think, that's also why they really feel the sense of responsibility towards the environment. I mean, I know they're big on recycling and like they take the bike to work so that, so I think it's because of that close connection with nature that they'll feel that sense of responsibility to take care of it in any way that they can.
Yes, it's a sustainability mindset. It's just a mindset that is quite mindful of its environment, right? And it all boils down to, if I stress my environment, then it's going to stress me back. So what can I do?
Same lagom. We're going back to lagom, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is the Swedish mindset. It is the Swedish psyche. And it all ties back to that. It really does. It's that mindset of moderation, of just right, of optimal, right? So yeah, absolutely.
I also noticed that it's quite diverse out there now, because I was not expecting that. I thought everyone would be blonde and blue-eyed, but that's not the case. There's like quite a bit of there's quite a few immigrants out there right now, and I was kind of glad to see that they were opened up and they're
Well, first of all, we always say that the Swedish PR machine is very strong because Sweden, 1 in every 4 Swedish person has foreign roots, either through parents or even themselves. But we don't see that reflected in the imagery that's being shown, outside of Sweden. So there are lots of generations of Swedes that are not blonde and blue-eyed that have been born here for decades. Sweden is just a lot more diverse than what the PR keeps putting out. And I think it's a shame, because it is diversity can just show a lot more, just a very richer culture, because all cultures evolve over time. All cultures don't stay static. They actually evolve over centuries and centuries. And this is the current evolution of Sweden's culture to the next generation. So, but yeah, it's definitely diverse. 1 in every Swede has foreign roots.
And do you think that everyone who comes there embraces this mindset that we just talked about, lagom, hygge, and all of that?
So in a sense, it depends, right? So the mindset is one that you can bring into your personal life. It is one I recommend in your personal life, because it's trying to remove unnecessary stress in your personal life. But in a group setting, I say stick to your own culture or stick to your own values, because what's going to happen is the mindset it's going to try and repress you in a group setting. It's going to try to not make you fully stand in your power and in who you are. And that's can be a very dangerous thing. You do not want to just become just an average homogeneous person, right? That's not you. Everybody brings something that makes them vibrant, that makes them alive. So in a sense, that's the best parts of the culture to assimilate into your personal life, where you can live with a lot more moderation, with a lot less, with more contentment, but in a group setting, still fully show up as yourself.
Great note to end on. Fully show up as yourself.
You have to. There's only just you in this life, and blending in and letting yourself disappear does nobody any good.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Well, Lola, it has been so wonderful talking to you and learning from you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences and knowledge with all of us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right, so I want to let everyone know that Lola's book, Lagom, The Swedish Secret of Living Well, is available wherever books are sold. And you can also learn about her other books, she has a bunch of them, and her wonderful photography at akinmade.com. I'll add the link in the description. All right, Lola, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.